2016 was a great year for N&W 611. With the excursion season completed, 611 heads south to the North Carolina Transportation Museum for some special events and maintenance before the close of her 2016 operating season. Here we see 611 on her ferry move between Roanoke and Spencer at Lynchburg, Virginia. She is preparing to leave former Norfolk and Western rails at Kinney Yard for her run on former Southern trackage. Later that day at the North Carolina Transportation Museum, we see NCTM's former Norfolk and Western GP9 number 620 preparing the consist that is to be used for the Day Out with Thomas events for later in the month. 620 is painted in the Norfolk and Western Tuscan scheme of the GP9s that replaced the N&W J-class steam locomotives, of which 611 is a member, in 1959. These diesels were nicknamed Redbirds, though 620 was not an original one and hauled freight throughout her service life for the N&W. .611 arrives in Spencer and is greeted by her fans and chasers. After her arrival, she is detached from her train, turned on the museum turntable, and put away for the day. Historically, the former Southern Railway repair facility at Spencer, North Carolina, never saw an engine the size of 611 being serviced here. As you can see in this shot of 611 being turned, she just barely fits on the turntable. Following her stay at Spencer, the 611 went home to the Virginia Museum of Transportation in Roanoke, Virginia, for winter storage before her 2017 excursion season was to begin. On a very cold January morning in 2017, 611 backs her short consist out of her home at the Virginia Museum of Transportation, preparing for another run to Spencer to begin her 2017 operating season. Only a few blocks from where we are standing is the former Norfolk and Western Roanoke shops, where the 611 was built in 1950. 611 will take the former Virginian Railway tracks from Roanoke to Hurt, Virginia, before taking the southern trackage to Spencer.
Not a bad view.
At Danville, Virginia, we see 611 pass the former Southern Railway station, now a science museum, at the end of our chase. This station is still used today by Amtrak. 611's 2017 excursion season officially got underway on April 8th when she pulled an excursion from Spencer, North Carolina to Lynchburg, Virginia. Here at Lynch Station, Virginia, not far from Lynchburg, 611 blasts by. Notice the diesel helper in the consist is a former Norfolk & Western SD40-2 number 6110. The diesel helper was used to conserve coal for the long trip for the 611, and this was the only 611 excursion this year to feature a diesel helper. The following day, April 9th, 611 powered two half-day excursions. The first was from Spencer, North Carolina to Charlotte, and the second was from Spencer to Greensboro. Early in the morning, we see 611 in Salisbury, North Carolina, heading south to Charlotte. This was 611's first excursion to Charlotte since 1994. Upon her late return to Spencer, 611 backs her train onto the North Carolina Transportation Museum property at the end of the Charlotte trip. Notice the last car of the train is a round-ended observation car. During her service on the Norfolk & Western, 611 often pulled the 5-car Powhatan Arrow passenger train, which included a round-ended observation car, though completely different in paint and design to the one seen here. On April 22nd and 23rd, 611 ran 2 Greensboro, North Carolina to Roanoke, Virginia trips. These trips ran on former Southern, Virginian, and Norfolk and Western Railway trackage. Here in Danville, Virginia, we see the J pull into the station on a very overcast day. The return trip from Roanoke to Greensboro was plagued by delays, and by the time 611 returned to the southern tracks in Hurt, she was close to 2 hours behind schedule. Notice her working hard to make up for the lost time. It would be dark by the time she arrived in Greensboro. On April 28th, 611 took part in a very special event at the North Carolina Transportation Museum. The recently restored Civil War-era locomotive, the Texas, owned by the city of Atlanta, Georgia, was unveiled to the public for her first and only outing outside of her new display site in Atlanta. 611 and Lehigh Valley Coal No. 126, owned by the Grambling Locomotive Works based out of Ashley, Indiana, were under steam and were used for engineer for an hour sessions, while the Texas was displayed for photo ops.
Up on the turntable. Heating up on the turntable now is a CSX 2702.
Hey Marcus, try again.
Following her appearance at the Texas event, 611 operated 2 Roanoke, Virginia to Petersburg, Virginia trips, all on historic Norfolk and Western home rails, on May 6th and May 7th. Here we see 611 blast through Appomattox, Virginia, heading east. Here we see 611 arrive in Petersburg, Virginia, while many of her fans view trackside. The last excursions of 611's 2017 season would occur later that month, again on home rails, from Roanoke to Lynchburg and then Roanoke-Walton. For most of the rest of 2017, 611 would stay at her home at the Virginia Museum of Transportation and would be fired up on special occasions. On October 7th, 611 would take part in a special event called the Big Lick Tug, an event where teams could pull the 611 down the rails. A similar event called Iron Horse Tug of War happened almost exactly 10 years before, under entirely different times and circumstances. Because of her lightweight design, the team certainly would have struggled more with a much heavier and larger engine.
16, 12, look at that. No, they got different.
days later, 611 made a one-way ferry move back down to Spencer to receive winter maintenance. While it remains a mystery as to what exactly 611 will be doing in 2018, we look forward to 611's continued operation in the future.